Dr. Zaheer Shah with us to respond to some of your concerns. He's a hospitalist in Phoenix, Arizona, who is board certified in internal medicine, and he's been helping to guide us with his medical expertise throughout this pandemic. Dr. Shah, it is always a pleasure to have you on. So talk to the audience a little bit here. If you're sitting at home and you're having any doubts about something you've read out there about the safety of the vaccine, what do you want to say to them tonight?
Well, Kilmany, I think one of the biggest concerns that many people have about this vaccine is this perception that it has been brought to the marketplace very rapidly in response to a global pandemic, and that as a result of it coming through going through the R&D, the research and development, the safety testing, that it's been so rapid that as a result of that, it may be inherently dangerous. And one of the things that I'm telling my patients and others who are interested in my answer is that you really have to break down these vaccines into two things. One is the spike protein component, which is how we're mounting an antibody response to this potential, this actual existing coronavirus. That technology or that science is now nearly 20 years old. Let me explain why. When SARS happened in 2002 going into 2003, that's when pharmaceutical companies and scientific researchers first began to develop a potential vaccine to the coronavirus family. And that's when we first discovered that in order to make a vaccine against coronavirus species, that we're going to have to target the spike protein. We've known that now since 2003. Now, knowing that, couple that with the fact that the mRNA delivery system, which is novel, it's never been used in a vaccine before, it does not make it brand new to human systems. In fact, for over a decade, we've been using the mRNA delivery system to deliver a variety of chemotherapeutic and other immunologic agents for various diseases and other applications in human beings. And we've done that safely and we've done that effectively. And so when you take that together, you realize that, well, the spike protein technology is nearly 20 years old. The mRNA delivery system is at least 10 years old. And so a deeper analysis reveals that this vaccine is not so novel, it's not so brand new, and in fact, it relies on research that is at least 20 years old with respect to the spike protein and at least 10 years old with respect to the mRNA delivery system. Now, the efficacy of the COVID vaccine, whether you're getting it from Pfizer or Moderna, is a breathtaking 95%. Keep in mind that we utilize vaccines routinely with far lower efficacy rates. Let me give you a couple of examples. So the vaccine that we give children now to protect them against chickenpox, it's only efficacious up to about 82 to 85%. The mumps vaccine is even worse. Its efficacy is around 78%. Despite that, we've been using that for decades now because it's our best way to treat somebody or protect somebody against the possibility of acquiring mumps. And so when you look at all of that together, you realize that this vaccine is pretty darn safe. Its technology, the science that it relies on, is much older than 1 year, as I think some people in the lay public have come to regard it.
So what you're telling me, Dr. Shah, is you're going to take the vaccine?
As soon as I can.
And how important is it that enough Americans take this vaccine?
That's a great question. You know, there's a few things that I think people need to understand. I saw today in a post, in a Facebook feed post that, well, if it's only 90%, if 90% of the people who get COVID do just fine, I don't think I need the vaccine because, you know, my chances are really good. And I would say, well, if we're going to base it only on our individual needs, you're right. If you're in that subgroup that is likely to do well with COVID-19, then yeah, you may not want to get the vaccine. But if you think of it in larger and broader terms, which is that over 3,000 Americans are dying every day from this global pandemic, and that your vaccination isn't just about your safety, it's about becoming one of thousands of people that form a human chain of what we call herd immunity that will prevent that vulnerable person from getting it. So what is herd immunity? Well, herd immunity is that number of Americans, let's keep it focused on just our country, that number of Americans that need to have antibodies in response to COVID-19. In other words, they already have developed an immunity that will prevent the spontaneous transmission of the virus. In other words, what's that number where the virus will simply stop transmitting? And the answer to that is we don't know for sure what that number will be because it varies. It varies for a number of reasons. For example, if you're in New York City, the number of people that need to be vaccinated to protect the whole society in New York City from the transmission of COVID is going to be a lot higher than, for example, if you live in Wyoming, where population density is far less. And as a result, fewer of the members of that population may need to be vaccinated. But regardless, it's going to be somewhere around 80% of Americans are going to need to get vaccinated or become immune through infection in order to be protected, in order for all of us to benefit from this idea of herd immunity. Now, for those who think that herd immunity is something that we should work naturally to get, in other words, well, let's just wait this out, with enough Americans getting it, then eventually we will achieve herd immunity. And the answer to that is yes. But even using the best estimates and modeling for how many Americans will pay the ultimate price for that form of natural herd immunity, that number is over 1 million Americans. And that simply is not tolerable. That is not something we morally can justify, which is why if anyone's on the fence about this vaccine because they're young, because they're healthy, and the likelihood is overwhelming that they're going to do well with it, well, don't do it for yourself. Do it for your fellow Americans.
Dr. Shah, we really appreciate your valuable expertise as always. Happy holidays to you and your family, and please stay safe.